Salutations everyone, Salutations here, back with another power scaling video. And I have decided to bring back some cross-verse matchups on the channel with a bang. Now, I've seen a lot of could Sukuna defeat the Akatsuki so frequently on YouTube that is beyond annoying at this point. And I really want to get into more JJK scaling on the channel, as I really haven't got to talk about their higher ends, as the only video I made on them was of the disaster curses. So, I thought the best way I can do that is, could Sukuna raid the 5 Kage summon? But before we get into the video proper, please make sure to hit that like button, comment your thoughts down below, and subscribe to the channel. Also click the notification bell to know when I upload next. Finally, you can join my Patreon or YouTube membership program to support the channel. There are cool rewards like early access to videos and a private Discord for y'all to enjoy. Now then, for this video we'll be taking Sukuna during his fight with Gojo as our main version of Sukuna. While his Heian era form may be stronger, the strength gain in my personal opinion is both unquantifiable, and using this form of Sukuna is much more fun for versus matchups, as we get to take a look at the 10 Shadows technique and how, alongside Sukuna's intelligence and moveset, how he's able to interact with the different opponents that Sasuke fought at the summit. Speaking of which, let's actually discuss the circumstances of the video and how we'll be handling everything. Firstly, because of how Sukuna acts in character, he will be attacking the 5 Kage summit solo. That's right, no Team Taka. The only thing he will have is his abilities and himself and all of the 10 Shadow summons, but we'll get to them. Now, what exactly will Sukuna's goals here be? Well, that's simply kill Danzo and everyone who stands in his way. That means he'll be running the same gauntlet as Sasuke, that being the Raikage and his aides, Mei and Inoki and their aides, and then finally Danzo and his aides. One final note, we'll be using verse equalization to equalize chakra and curse energy, just so each verse's abilities can interact with each other at their fullest capabilities. So let's get this video started off by scaling how strong Sukuna is. Now, when it comes to Sukuna, he has a variety of strength feats ranging from defeating Mahoraga to killing the strongest sorcerer of modern day, Gojo. But how do his feats actually stack up in a cross-verse setting? Well, let's take a look at them. Firstly, let's debunk some of the planetary arguments for Sukuna real quick, as I feel they don't really hold any weight at this current point. The first one being Yuki's black hole feat. Now, Kenjaku stated that it would have destroyed the world, but in this case, context is very much king. Now, if Yuki's attack acts like a black hole, then we know that it would suck in any matter it comes into contact with it, and the more mass it is able to absorb, the larger it gets. So that means, firstly, it would be an over time feat, as it would get bigger and bigger as it absorbs more mass, eventually consuming the planet. So that doesn't really scale to actual AP. Now, the second statement comes from the back of Volume 6, stating, should any demon consume Sukuna's body parts, the power they gain could destroy the world as we know it. Firstly, that's an incredibly vague statement, and what does that even mean? A lot of people seem to believe it means the planet, but it could very well mean society, as I believe the word they use is Sekai, which would actually make far more sense. But then where does Sukuna actually scale? Now, at the barest of minimums, he does have a large country level feat. During his fight with Mahoraga, he is able to split the sky with his dismantle, and based on the calculations for this feat, it has been placed roughly at large country level. Now, 20 Finger Sukuna should be much stronger than this, so him being upscaled to continental to potentially multi-continental is not a stretch, especially if you believe that Sukuna gets exponentially stronger with each finger he eats. But if you only want to go with the large country level scaling, that is also valid, but then what about speed? Well, this gets a bit weirder, as Sukuna does have some good FTL plus feats, potentially to MFTL plus, depending on how you want to view them. Sukuna has multiple feats of him dodging Kashima's lightning, which in the manga are stated to be him controlling electromagnetic waves. Now, I am aware there's some contention with this, based on translations and other things in this scaling, so in other ways, using Kenjaku escaping Yuki's black hole, and this is important because Gojo was able to speed blitz Kenjaku, and Sukuna, even while suppressed, was able to fight fairly evenly with Gojo. So putting Sukuna at the FTL plus category may not be actually as inconsistent as people think. But then, how does he actually stack up against the 5 Kage summit? So now we'll be looking at our first section where Sukuna is going to be facing his first opponent, that being A, the Raikage. And this is by no means an easy fight for Sukuna. Firstly, A should scale above the likes of the 3rd Raikage, who is able to fight to a standstill with the 8 Tails. This is important as the 8 Tails is able to endure its own tail beast ball, and yet the 3rd Raikage managed to cut off all of its tails. This should mean A should be able to damage tailed beasts. But how is that relevant? Well, there are numerous different calculations for how strong tail beast balls in Naruto are, and these can range anywhere from large country level all the way up to multi-continental. Now, this depends if you believe that tail beast balls are vaporization or pulverization, but I've seen a lot of people say they're pulverization, I've seen a lot of people say they're vaporization. To me, it doesn't matter. But since we're being generous to Sukuna, being generous to the Kage is more than fine. So giving them multi-continental AP to keep up with Sukuna seems very fair. Now, speed is where things get very interesting, as in terms of speed, even in part 1, we have some great statements. Firstly, we have two main light speed statements, those being from Haku's Ice Mirrors and Itachi's Water Fang Bullet. As well, we also get in the first fan book a statement that the Anbu are as well light speed. Now, some people may call this into question, as the 4th Raikage and Madara are also stated to move at light speed in the data book, which is strange, but in my personal opinion, I believe there's more consistency with the previous statements to be valid, as opposed to the other two, which contradict themselves, whereas the other statements do not actually contradict themselves. And the Raikage should massively scale above these attacks, firmly placing him in base, mind you, in the massively faster than light category. And when using his chakra cloak, he should be MFTL plus, pretty consistently. And if you want more evidence for this, Gaara as a child has a Mach 29 feat where he blocks a paper bomb. Now, as we know, as Gaara got stronger, his sand speed increased, so this scaling isn't even inconsistent with the series. This would mean that Sukuna, and by extension his 10 shadow summons, are going to have their hands very much full with someone who is quite a bit faster than them. Now, this is where Sukuna's RCT will come into play, but again, it's not easy, as we know taking out the user's head is a way of killing an RCT user, and the Raikage does tend to go for headshots quite a lot, so it's not out of logic to say that he could kill Sukuna. Though, I will say, if Sukuna does land a domain expansion, the Raikage may get killed by that. But that's not the only worry Sukuna has. C is a Genjutsu user, so he may be able to trap Sukuna in a Genjutsu and give the Raikage an opening to rip his head off. But that would cause one thing to happen, which would make this matchup a little easier on Sukuna, that being Maharaga showing up. And I do firmly believe that Maharaga could adapt to the 4th Raikage's Lightning Cloak and pierce it, and most definitely he can damage the Raikage. But then the problem becomes, can he even hit the Raikage? Like, he should scale relative to Sukuna in speed, and that doesn't even take into account the Raikage uses Body Flicker, which amps his speed even more. So I'm very hard pressed to say if Sukuna could actually make it past the Raikage in his aids, and even if he does, he has to fight Gaara as well, who mind you potentially arrives and teams up with the Raikage, and at that point it's over. The only possible way Sukuna can win at that point is with his domain expansion. But then it becomes, can he kill the Raikage before he blitzes over and hits Sukuna hard enough to make his domain collapse? Who knows? But let's say against all odds, Sukuna manages to beat and get past Gaara, the Raikage, as well as their aides. Well, how does he fare against Mei and Inoki? Well, Mei doesn't really have any good scaling. Though her boy release was able to damage Sasuke's Susanoo, I am unsure if Mei could put down Sukuna. No. It's Inoki he has to worry about. Not only is he shown fighting on par with Deidara in the war, who one-shotted the Three Tails, but he also has Particle Style, which will literally atomize Sukuna and Maharaga. As well, Inoki should scale somewhat relative to Gaara and A in some capacity in terms of speed. So, at the bare minimum, Inoki should rival Sukuna in speed, if not giving Inoki the slight edge. So if he didn't die to A or Gaara, he is most definitely dying to Inoki. And real quick, I do want to say, no, Danzo's not being Sukuna, because Danzo really doesn't have anything up his sleeve to kill Sukuna permanently. But that's my video, ladies and gentlemen. If you did enjoy the cross-verse matchup and want to see more of them, let me know by commenting, liking, and subscribing. Until we meet again, good luck in your power scaling endeavors.